Hi, this is Ray Dietz coming at you from downtown LA today with the Southern California Business and Basketball Report. And there's been a ton of investment in downtown LA over the past 20 years. And how do you reinvigorate a city? It's generally by putting an arena and a stadium downtown, and then putting the restaurants, the bars around it. As people start to see the life, they want to live and work in that area, and that's exactly what happened in downtown Los Angeles. Back in October 17th of 1999, the Staples Center opened up downtown LA, and then that was followed on October 24th of 2003 with the Disney Concert Hall that opened up downtown. And today there's lots of nice restaurants, there's all kinds of towers going up, and it's been more or less of a retail renaissance downtown LA. So the three things we want to hit on this week, we want to talk about the downtown business environment. We're going to talk in particular about the shoe industry, as there's quite a history here in Southern California. It goes back to 1830, where in Dana Point, there were ranchers, guys that were throwing cowhides off the cliffs in Dana Point down to the beach, where the cowhides were thrown onto boats and sent to Boston for the shoemakers in Boston way back then. So that's been going on a long time. A lot of the shoe industry, and we're actually on Sneaker Row today in LA. The Jumpman LA store is right behind me, the store behind the bus, you can see. And actually they have a basketball court upstairs there. It's closed today. The Jordan brand has some meetings there. The second thing we're going to hit on, we're going to recap the 2018-2019 high school basketball season here briefly. And then third, we're going to look to next week where we'll be in a historical area in LA, and it'll be the final week next week, and we'll talk about some of the stories of people that have made it to the NBA, some of the mishaps people have run into and not made the NBA. So we'll hit on that. That'll be one you'll want to see next week. So right now, I mentioned we're downtown in Sneaker Row, and LA is historically, it's been very dispersed, spread out. There hasn't been a central point. There's a lot of activity in the South Bay around the beaches, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, where there's a lot of people that live. You've got the Century City area, Beverly Hills, Westwood, and in that area, the Century Plaza Hotel, a historical hotel where I remember seeing Laura Bush there at a luncheon, Vicente Fox, former president of Mexico. And today that hotel is being redone as we speak. Then you have downtown LA, which went through a tough period of time in the late 1900s. There was a lot of retail activity in the mid 1900s. People would come down here to the Garment District on the weekend, shopping and so forth. There's a flower mart, there's a jewelry mart here as well. And you name it, there's a fish area down here, wholesalers that sell fish near Skid Row. Of course, they're trying to sell to the cruise lines, they're trying to sell to the hotels, the restaurants. And I mentioned the Garmentos, and they used to have to where there was a retail section around the mart and surrounding area. They had retail places where people could get their clothes, and there were also people buying wholesale. There may be a shop owner in San Luis Obispo would come down, look at what they want, and have it shipped up. But the manufacturing for these places was done on the near east side, East LA, and there was also a lot of furniture manufacturing that went on there in East LA. And then we hit the Clinton era, where Bill Clinton worked out a deal with China for trade, and it was a difficult thing. There were a lot of areas of the country that didn't necessarily want it. Clinton was very persuasive, and give you an example, he went to Northeast Ohio. Tom Sawyer was the representative there. He'd have a hard time just voting for the trade deal with China. So they set up a meeting at the Akron-Canton Airport, and they had a bunch of chairs set up where there were business leaders, there were government leaders, the head of the Polymer School at the University of Akron, community leaders, and Sawyer had Bill Clinton fly in. He just walked over to a hangar at the airport, and as he walked in the door, he pounded his fist on the table, and he said, the first thing you got to understand, this is not about trade with China. And he says, what you have to do is befriend the enemy. And the guy that was at the meeting told me everybody walked out really persuaded, and of course the whole thing was about trade with China. So Clinton was a classically trained Yale attorney. He turned the tables on the situation, and eventually that deal did prevail. And so that as that trade deal with China went through, you had the toy area here downtown LA. They did very well. They could manufacture in China, ship large quantities of toys here, and they coordinated their efforts in downtown LA here, and they had huge margins there for quite a while. So that certainly helped them. But as we went through a transition then with that manufacturing shift to China, they were no longer manufacturing the garments in East LA. You needed less space now, and so those plants shut down, the furniture places shut down. You still saw some large, lightweight couches being made in East LA, but that small coffee table that was wood crafted, that it might take a guy 7 years to train an employee to make, and they could sell the thing for $25,000. Well, that type of thing could be made in China for $2,000 or $3,000. So that type of stuff did go away. And then, so you had a downtime in downtown LA, and then eventually as the Staples Center came back, the Disney Concert Hall came back, and the restaurants, the bars, and it just revitalized the whole area. Now you have Sneaker Row. And so you get traditionally the sneaker industry. You saw around Fairfax, La Brea, you saw a lot of shoes and streetwear up there. And now right here on Broadway where I'm standing, it's a little bit of a grittier feeling. The rent's cheaper down here than Fairfax, La Brea on the west side. Jumpman LA directly behind me, located. They have a basketball court upstairs. They have nice shoe section where you can see the different shoes, and on a second floor as well. WSS Outlet is a couple blocks from here. Chic Shoes, Foot Action. Vans is opening up a 9,000 square foot space that can be used by local artists, chefs, and others as kind of a pop-up spot to show people their stuff. And then also nearby Ross, Burlington, Shoe Looker, all these types of stores. You can see right down the road behind me, you should be able to see the Ross sign, and Burlington's on the next corner. So it's really picked up in the area. And as you look at the shoe industry in 2018, the shoe that sold the most was the Nike Tanjun. Nike Air Max was number 2. Converse Chuck Taylor was number 3, and Nike does own Converse. The Air Jordan 2 Retro was number 4 last year. Number 5, Nike Air Huarache. Vans Ward was number 6. Number 7 was the Nike Revolution. 8, Nike Flex. Number 9, Adidas Yeezy. And number 10 was the Nike Air Force 1 Low. And in terms of market share in the shoe industry, the athletic footwear shoe industry, Nike's number 1, Adidas is number 2 last year, and they're coming on. Under Armour 3, Skechers 4, New Balance 5, Asics is 6, Sony is 7, Avia 8, British Knights 9, and Brooks number 10. Columbia, the company from Oregon, number 14. And by the way, K-Swiss is not in that top 15, but they're located, their corporate offices are near LA here. So that's kind of where the shoes are today. Adidas really stepped up the streetwear sales, and they're pushing there. You don't hear Reebok, the old days of Lamar Mundane and everybody standing on the side yelling layup. So they're not there, but you can actually still buy some Reeboks down here. So this renaissance in the retail area and this revitalized downtown LA, Antonio Villaraigosa, the former mayor, he had quite a bit to do with it, as he was behind a lot of the public transportation improvements, the Expo line going out to the west side, and then the skyscrapers that are going up all over. The buildings are in the way, so you won't be able to see that over by the Staples Center a few blocks away. But in the last 10 to 20 years, Antonio Villaraigosa had a lot to do with the groundwork there. The Oceanwide Plaza I mentioned a few weeks ago, it's still to where it's a standstill. It's a $1 billion project with 3 towers. Right now the liens, mechanic liens total $62.5 million. Some of those might have been paid off. But it's a Chinese company, and those liens are on masonry, steel, reinforcements, and concrete pouring. So we'll see if these problems are taken care of with this. You would think that this company is very large, would be able to get some money from another part of the world. There is some trouble getting money out of China now, but with the standstill, you never know. If nothing's done, eventually someone could foreclose on the towers down there, and you just don't want an eyesore long term. There's also an FBI probe that's going on downtown, pay for play with construction, and that main project I mentioned, the Chinese project, there's 3 high-rises, 500 luxury condos, a shopping mall, 5-star Park Hyatt hotel, and like I said, it's right across the street from the Staples Center. So hopefully that situation gets rectified, and I have a feeling if the United States and China trade package is put through, we'll see that project start up again. Basketball wise, of course, there's the city section, and the school Fairfax would be moving towards La Cienega Boulevard on the west side. Westchester's out by the airport, but downtown here, Cathedral High School is near downtown, just on the outskirts of Chinatown. And Kobe Paris, a few years ago, was a player that played there, in Middlebrooks Academy as well. And he was a great player from the Philippines, and a lot of you know his story. He's well traveled and back in the Philippines now. And overall, the season, we saw Fairfax win the city section this year. Sierra Canyon, that was the open division. Sierra Canyon, they won the open Southern Section state title and Southern Section title. And Rancho Christian beat Sierra Canyon, as you recall, in the regular season, but in the postseason, Westchester, they gave Sierra Canyon the best game. They were very physical, and this was a year that Westchester did not win the city, though Fairfax did. We'll check in with you over the summer in terms of some of the summer league play. There's going to be some players that transfer as well. That always happens in the summertime, but that's pretty much the local situation right now. It's pretty much it for today. I wanted to give you a feel for the shoe business downtown here, and we're going to be at a historical area next week. We're going to talk about some guys that made it to the NBA, some guys that hit some mishaps, and maybe some things to avoid. So if you know some coaches, parents, and some players aspiring to play professionally, make sure you tell them to watch next week, as next week will be the last week of the season. So thanks for joining us once again, and we'll see you next week.